Uh, this is a story or a history created by my grandfather Sri Chakravarti Narasimha Raja Iyengar. So, Mr. Chakravarti Narasimha Raja Iyengar had an illustrious career during his lifetime. So he started his career as an in the Indian Air Force in the year 1940s. So he served in the Indian Air Force and also took part in the freedom struggle simultaneously. He also took part in the freedom struggle that ensued in the 1940s. So he had gone to several times to the jail, and also he, after serving in the jail and fighting for the freedom fight, he also served in the Indian Air Force. So Indian Air Force, while serving in the Indian Air Force, he also fought the war that ensued in the 1940s. The 1940s, the Great World War II that ensued, where India was pushed into the war by the British. So that war was, he fought in the war in the under the banner of Indian Air Force. So he was a war veteran. He was a freedom fighter, and also after completing his tenure in the Indian Air Force, he joined the several companies in Mysore, including the Navajyoti printing press and a lot of other institutions, and also as a government licensed electrical contractor. He took up a lot of electrical works in and around Mysore in the 1940s. So after that, he joined as an electrician in Indian telephone industries way back in 1949. So that was a period when Indian telephone industries was beaming with a lot of orders and beaming with a lot of profits. So that was the initial period that the Indian telephone industries had a boom. So during that time, he joined the Indian telephone industries as an electrician after serving the Indian Air Force and as a freedom fighter. And also in these photographs, you can see him holding a cup that was presented to him during the Madras Regimental Center's tactical course that was conducted for persons with military background. So he had attended the Madras Regimental Center's tactical course, and he won the first place in the tactical course, and he got a cup for that. So that is a photo that is being displayed, and it was way back in the 1940s. So in the 1940s itself, he had undergone the tactical course in Madras Regimental Center. So as the years passed, his family flourished. He married my grandmother Alamelamma, whose father was still his life was still illustrious. My grandmother's father, my great grandfather. My great grandfather was in Mysore, and he was known as Srinivasa Iyengar. So Mr. Srinivasa Iyengar was he was a priest in Srinivasa temple, a small temple in Bandikeri in Mysore. So he was a priest in the temple, and he was approached by my grandfather for the marriage of his daughter, and he was readily agreed because my grandfather had an illustrious career and an electrician in the Indian telephone industries, so he readily agreed. So my great grandfather also was an illustrious Samaveda Vidwan in the very well known in the circles of Mysore priests in the 1940s. So he was a Samaveda Vidwan, and he was so affluent, so fluent in Samaveda Vidwan that he was very well known in the circles of the priests in and around Mysore. His name was Srinivasa Iyengar, and he was known as Annaswamy Iyengar also. So that was my little bit details of my great grandfather, who offered his daughter Almelamma to the to my grandfather, Mr. Chakravarti Narasimha Raja Iyengar, who is in the picture. So this is a small write-up about him, having served in the Indian Air Force and being a freedom fighter, and having worked in Mysore, in and around Mysore, and also joining the Indian telephone industries later. But during the FAG days, that is during the 2000. 15 and 2015, 2014, the era, he was still very strong. Even though he was 80 years, he always took me along. I was his pet, grandchild, and he was always, you took me to various, treatments that he got done for his eyes, for his urological problems, for anywhere he wanted to get treatment. He used to tag me along because he liked me a lot. So he tagged me along and he took me along with him to various places of, treatment centers. But one unfortunate incident happened with him was he suffered a stroke during his, when he was 80 plus years. He suffered a stroke and he was bedridden. So he was, for several years he was bedridden, and I used to also look after him for some time along with my uncle and other my grandmother. We used to look after him. So during this period of, very interesting incident now comes up. During this period of coma, sorry, this stroke, he was bedridden, but he was conscious enough, and he was well, was knowing what was going around him. So he took up a piece of certificate, okay, and gave it to me, and he told me what is the most important thing in this certificate. So I took that certificate and saw carefully. It was a share certificate of a company, and I told him, why are you giving this to me? He said, you go through it. He said, go through it, though he was in a stroke. He said, you go through it and tell me which is the important thing, most important thing in the share certificate. So I went through it carefully, and I couldn't, I told several answers, and he disagreed. And he said, the most important thing in the share certificate is, I am an Indian citizen. So that is the most important thing in the share certificate. So never forget that you are a Indian citizen. So that was the most important message that he gave me, that never forget that you are a citizen of great India. To never forget this matter, that you are a citizen of great India, and respect your country, know your country, love your country, and serve your country. So this was a message that he gave me through that piece of share certificate. And he also asked me one more question. What was Gandhiji's, because he was a freedom fighter, he had a great liking for the Mahatma Gandhi ji. So he asked me one more question. He said, what was Gandhiji's favorite song? So I couldn't recollect, and I thought, maybe it is Ishwar Allah Tero Naam Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. I just recited this one. He said, he nodded his head and said, no, not this one. He said, Vaishnava Janato Tere Kahiyaj Peed Parai Tere Na. So this is a Vaishnava Janato Tere Kahij. It is a famous song sung by, Lata Mangeshkar beautifully, and this was the who is a real Vaishnav? Who is a real Vaishnav? Who is born in the real Vaishnav Janata? Which means he knows the sufferings of the people. He knows the how people are undergoing the pain and suffering. That that person is a real Vaishnava. So that aspect, he told me that all the meanings of that song, Vaishnava Janato Tere Kahij. So that song is really, going around in my head even now today. So so many things. Sakala Tirtma Tere Maname. He said Sakala Tirtma Tere Maname means all the Tirtha Yatra we go is all inside us. So Sakala Tirtma Tere Maname Vaishnava Janato Tere Kahej. So this song was the most beautiful song that I'll never forget, as told by my grandfather. So this was his last two messages that gave me. And before he went into his final rest, he showed one sign to me, that I could never forget. That was to me because I was his pet grandchild, and he showed the thumbs up sign to me in the last moments of his last moments. He showed his thumbs up. He showed his thumbs up and told me, "Never in life bow your head. Be strong. Be be strong. Face the world and come up in the world. You are.